The amazing story of Spider-Man. A long time ago in the busy city of New York, there lived a boy named Peter Parker. Peter was just like any other kid. He went to school, did his homework, and loved reading about science. He lived with his Aunt May and Uncle Ben, who always cared for him like he was their own son. But Peter wasn't the most popular kid in school. He was smart, but he was also shy. Some kids even picked on him because he loved science more than sports. Still, Peter didn't let that bother him. He had big dreams of becoming a great scientist one day. But everything changed one day when Peter's class took a trip to a special science lab. The spider bite. Peter was beyond excited. The lab was full of amazing things, glowing chemicals, moving robots, and giant machines. But the most interesting thing to him was a glass room filled with different kinds of spiders. These spiders are part of an experiment, the scientist explained. They have special abilities that help them survive. Peter leaned in close, fascinated. But as he watched, he didn't notice one tiny spider crawling along the edge of the glass. Suddenly, plink! The spider slipped through a small crack and landed right on Peter's hand. Before he could shake it off, ouch! The spider bit him. Ah! Peter yelped, rubbing his hand. The bite stung, but he didn't want to make a scene. He quickly stepped back and acted like nothing had happened. But on the way home, he started feeling strange. His head felt dizzy, his muscles ached, and his hands tingled. As soon as he got home, he stumbled into bed and fell into a deep sleep. The next morning, something incredible happened. Peter woke up feeling different. He sat up, rubbing his eyes, and suddenly, whoomp! His hand stuck to the wall. "Whoa! What's going on?" he gasped. He pulled his hand away, but when he stood up, his feet stuck too. He tried to move, and before he knew it, splat! He was clinging to the ceiling like a spider. His eyes widened. This was not normal. Testing his new abilities, Peter placed his fingers on the wall again, and just like that, he started climbing. Hand over hand, foot over foot, he scaled the walls of his bedroom like an actual spider. And that wasn't all. His senses felt sharper. He could hear things far away, see tiny details, and even sense when something was about to happen. When he made a fist, he felt his strength surge. He punched his pillow, and it went flying across the room, smashing into the wall. Peter was amazed. Then as he tried to calm down, something else happened. Thwip! A thin web shot out from his wrist. His jaw dropped. He had spider powers. Discovering his strength. At first, Peter had fun with his new abilities. He jumped from rooftop to rooftop, ran faster than he ever had before, and swung through the city using his webbing. But he wanted to test just how strong he was. One day he entered a wrestling competition, wearing a homemade mask to hide his face. He easily flipped his opponent, dodged every move, and won the match without even breaking a sweat. But while he was celebrating, something happened that would change his life forever. A thief ran past him, stealing money from the ticket booth. The man in charge shouted, "Stop him! Somebody stop him!" Peter saw the thief running straight toward him. He could have stopped him. He should have stopped him. But instead, he just stepped aside and let the man escape. "It's not my problem," Peter muttered. But later that night, Peter got terrible news. His Uncle Ben had been hurt by a thief. When Peter rushed to the scene, his heart sank. His uncle was lying on the ground, barely able to speak. With tears in his eyes, Peter held his uncle's hand. "Peter," Uncle Ben whispered, "with great power comes great responsibility." And then he was gone. Peter was devastated. But when the police caught the thief and Peter saw his face, his blood ran cold. It was the same man he had let go earlier that night. Peter's heart pounded. If he had stopped the thief when he had the chance, Uncle Ben would still be alive. It was all his fault. That night, Peter made a promise. He would never, ever let something like this happen again. He had these powers for a reason. He had to use them to help people, not just for fun. He had to become a hero. Becoming Spider-Man, Peter designed a brand new suit, a red and blue costume with a big black spider on the chest. He created web shooters that allowed him to swing through the city. And from that day on, he was no longer just Peter Parker. He was Spider-Man. People in New York soon started noticing a masked hero swinging between buildings, stopping bad guys, and saving people in danger. One day, a villain named the Green Goblin attacked the city with his flying glider. He threw fireballs at buildings, scaring everyone below. Spidey swung into action. Thwip! "Hey, Goblin, did you forget to say trick or treat?" Spider-Man joked. Green Goblin growled. "You're always in my way, Spider-Man." The villain threw a bomb toward a group of people. Peter's spider sense tingled. He had to act fast. He jumped, caught the bomb in midair, and threw it into the sky before it could hurt anyone. "Not today!" he shouted. Spidey swung up and wrapped Green Goblin in webbing, sending him tumbling off his glider. The villain crashed into a rooftop, stuck like a fly. The crowd below cheered. "Did you see that? Spider-Man saved us." From that day on, everyone in the city knew one thing. Whenever there was trouble, Spider-Man would be there to help. A hero's journey. Peter still went to school. He still had homework, tests, and normal life problems. But every night he put on his mask and protected the city. Swinging through the air, he looked down at the streets below. The people of New York were safe, and he was doing his part. He smiled under his mask. He wasn't just Peter Parker anymore. He was Spider-Man, and his adventure was only beginning.